It's a nice moniker. I mean, something, the good thing is that I didn't give it to myself. But now that of course, when you're given that kind of a so-called title, you use it in your marketing, right?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah. So, but I don't say, hi, I'm Jeremy Monteiro, the king of swing, and let other people say it.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But it feels good, doesn't it? I mean, just to be called the king of swing.
Yeah.
I've always known you as that. My guest is a multifaceted musician, excelling as a pianist, composer, and vocalist. Notably, he has received the Public Service Medal and Singapore's prestigious Cultural Medallion. With a distinguished 49-year career spanning over 8,000 international performances since 1976, he has established himself as a seasoned artist. His impressive discography comprises 50 jazz albums, with 4 recent releases since 2022, ranking in the USA National Jazz Week charts top 50. As a fellow of the London College of Music and the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufacture and Commerce, he also holds a visiting professorship at the University of West London, a position he has maintained since 2016. Currently, he serves as Executive Director and Music Director of the Jazz Association, Singapore, and co-founded the Composers and Authors Society of Singapore, or COMPAS, where he acts as chairman. Please welcome Jeremy Monteiro. I remember the first time I've met the illustrious Jeremy Monteiro. You don't know that. You wouldn't know, because I was part of the guests in the hotel. It was at Sheraton Towers a very long time ago. And I remember Tama was playing drums for you.
That's right.
Your sister Clarissa was singing.
Yes.
And you were playing, of course, playing the piano.
Yes.
And I sat there. I think you played, it was 2 sets. Alone. I was alone. I sat there alone.
Yeah.
And I had 1 latte, 2 lattes, because I barely drink. It was at night, but I barely drink. So 1 latte, 2 lattes after that. Chris, can't sleep tonight. But suited me fine, because I just kept on sitting there and listening to you guys. That was the first time I encountered you. And for some reason, somehow became friends with Tama.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen him in a long time. Yeah, real good guy. So it's an honor to have you here, Jeremy.
My pleasure.
And to have Singapore's King of Swing.
Thank you very much.
On the Chris Henson conversation. Thank you very much for being here, really. Can you take me back to your earliest memories of music? What sparked your passion?
Well, back in the early 60s, my dad, he was a policeman, but then he also moonlighted as a jazz guitarist and a Hawaiian guitarist.
Oh.
And so when I was about, 4 years old, he used to have jam sessions at home. And, very often I used to play, toy pianos.
Okay.
And then his friends, I jumped onto the Fafisa organ that he had bought.
What is that?
It's an old brand of organ, kind of a cheesy sounding organ, actually, which a lot of rock bands used back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And I started playing simple things with 2 hands. And so my father's friends said to him, Monty, his nickname was Monty. Monty, you should get a piano, so you start your son on piano lessons.
Right.
So he did. They sold a Fafisa and bought a China-made piano called a Blessing piano.
Was that better than the Fafisa?
Well, yes. But back then the Chinese instruments were not made very well. They're cheap, that's all. But nowadays they make really good instruments.
Do they?
Yes, very much so. Just like the Japanese at one point, our grandparents' time,
Yamaha.
Yeah, nowadays, the Japanese are as good as anything you can get in Germany.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese they've won actually many piano awards in Germany. So beating German pianos.
Well, that's something new to me.
Yeah. So, but that time was the Blessing piano.
Right.
And it turned out to be a big blessing in my life, because that ended up being my career and my passion and my life.
And when you got started on it, your dad actually put you through lessons.
Yes.
And when his friends heard you play as a kid, screwing around on a little toy piano thing, and then they felt that what did they feel? What did they feel? Did they feel that you were prodigious? Were you a prodigy or?
No, I guess they felt I was very musical, I think would be the way, and say, oh, your son's very musical. Not from the toy piano playing, but jumping on the fafisa and playing with two hands.
Right.
And so, yeah, after that, they started me on piano lessons. The teacher, Miss Quek, lived about 10 doors down in Pasir Panjang. I still remember in Taman Mas Merah. And I used to go to... She was a very good teacher.
Right.
I had two good teachers, at least her and then later on Mr. Tan Zitong when we lived in Kota Kinabalu in Sabah.
Right.
He was my most influential piano teacher. So, but Miss Quek started me right with all the fundamentals. She, got me interested in music. She knew how to balance being strict and being gentle and encouraging. So she went on to become a Mrs. Kong, but I've never actually kept in touch with her for all those years, actually, which I really regret. I wish I had,
How old were you when you started with?
I started about when I was 6 years old with the piano.
6 years old. Looking back right now, who Jeremy Monteiro is today? Actually, I have to call you Dr. Jeremy Monteiro.
No, I don't have a doctorate. I have 3 professorial appointments.
Okay,
so people call me Prof, but you don't have to call me Prof, please. Make it more informal. I don't have a doctorate.
Okay, so you have 3 professorates.
Yes, so 3 professorial appointments. They're called, one from LaSalle College of Music here in Singapore, which is a lifetime appointment. Then I have the University of West London, London College of Music is the other one. And then Silapakon University in Thailand, where I was last week to train the band and to do a concert when the infamous earthquake hit.
So were you with the band when it happened?
No, I was back in the hotel room. So that was the day of the concert, actually. And I have this funny ritual sometimes. It's a very centering ritual for me. I polish my shoes before a major concert. So
there's something about you guys,
Yeah.
I got it. I'm sorry to interject here.
Yeah.
Because that caught me. You caught me because Jeremy, why? My goodness, you are like the 3rd person who told me this. There's this ritual thing that the generation before mine seemed to do before a show.
Yeah.
They like to polish their shoes.
Yeah.
The next
one. I thought I was the only one.
No, man. No. Because, I talk to a lot of people, right? And some of them are MCs. Before they do their show, they have to polish their own shoes. The next ritual that I found really funny is that they love to just iron their own shirts.
Well, I won't go that far. I like the laundry service for that. So there I was, about to polish my shoe, and then the room started to shake violently. I was on the 27th floor, and the toilet door was going boom, bam, boom, just sliding, and it was quite dramatic actually. And normally I'm very quick with the camera. I'm quite a social media savvy person, but I was just terrified because I've been in about 5 or 6 other earthquakes in Los Angeles and Tokyo before.
Oh.
And I have experienced an earthquake as strong as this one, but it lasted 1 minute. This was 5 minutes of very violent.
So it was a real long tremor.
Yeah. So I don't know whether but earthquakes feel twice as long as they are. So it was 5 minutes, so it felt like 10 minutes. And then when it stopped, the violent shaking stopped. The building continued to sway for 10 more minutes.
Oh man!
But there was no announcement to evacuate, although everyone was very smart and evacuated before me. And then after that, there was an announcement. After the shaking stopped and the swaying started, there was an announcement to evacuate. So I'm on the 27th floor. Of course, I grabbed my passport, my wallet, and lucky I was wearing a Bermudas and a short sleeve shirt and not in anything too skimpy. So. And I headed for the staircase.
Right.
I started to walk very fast now, but halfway through I said, you know what? This spalding was falling from the ceiling and landing on the floor.
Oh, wow.
I thought I was in an earthquake movie or a Disneyland earthquake simulator ride, really. So I started running, which is not easy for me because I have a couple of knee injuries that take turns to bother me. So I get all the way down to the bottom, and the security was so nice. They grabbed me, and I kind of got them for support. They took me to the assembly area. But then we waited 4 hours before the all clear to go back to the hotel.
4 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my
So life flashed right in front of you, huh?
yeah. Oh no, I mean, I had a sense of had a feeling of acceptance. Like, look, if this building crashes and I'm gone, I didn't live too bad a life. So I actually thought that. Can you imagine to reach that point where you think that this is it, finished?
You felt
But I
final.
remember saying a prayer and saying, "Look, let me help me get out of the building," and there I was. I managed to get out of the building. So, and then the concert was cancelled and rescheduled for 18th of June.
Oh, wow. So you have to go back again.
Yeah. So I told my organizers, "Can you put me in a low-rise hotel?" Not because there may be another earthquake, because normally it won't be so soon, right?
Yeah.
But in case some problems with the tall buildings and the cracks and all, which they're finding now,
Yeah.
and so that way, if there's any issue and I have to run down, I will run down 3 or 4 or 5 stories. I can make it.
27 floors, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't funny, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Okay, what were we actually talking about before we came to the earthquake? We were talking about you have a professorial appointment.
Yeah,
at
that's right.
3 places. Would you consider, again, that was my original question, and I remember now. If Jeremy Monteiro, looking back to the day he was 6 years old, started his classes, would you call yourself a prodigy?
I would not. The same way I don't believe in my own legacy. So people say, "Oh, what do you think your legacy is?" And I say, I think it's very, very egotistical to think in those terms. I think my legacy should be spoken about by other people, not, and they can consider what is it that they think I've contributed to. But myself, I'm just my eyes on the ball. I focus on what I have to do today and my plans for the future. Sure, I look back and reminisce with fond reminiscence or things that I did, but I don't. When I look back, and if you ask me if I thought I was a prodigy, I would say no. I didn't think I was a prodigy at all. Yeah,
Really?
other people did. Other people called me a prodigy, and but I don't, because I've seen so many great prodigies. And the thing is about it, I actually dovetailed really well into a proper career, because at 16 years old, I got my first job as a professional pianist in the jazz club. At a club 392. I don't know if you remember, not the CD one up in Orchard Towers, but when it was on that row of shop houses on Orchard Road. I caught you before you even went there. So the thing is that I was there, and I was 16 and a half years old, but and when I auditioned for the gig, the owner, Mr. A.J. Isaac, a very very colorful Jewish gentleman, basically made me band leader at the age of 16 and a half. So my musicians were in their 30s and their 40s. Most of them were very kind to me and respected my musicianship and didn't really see my age, except for one who was really upset because I keep telling him, you're coming late for work. And he wanted to beat me up one day. I had to be protected. I believe it or not, I was very puny at the time. So my other musicians had to shield me and say, hey, pick on someone your own size, Plus, he's right. You're late for work all the time,
But at 16, how come Mr. Isaac made you band leader in your mind?
Well, I guess he saw that not only I was a good pianist, but during the audition, he saw me getting the band together, like a mini rehearsal before, and how I was marshalling the band to play what I wanted to play. And he saw the leadership qualities I had back then. And I actually have, except for 3 or 4 occasions when I've been in someone's band with another band leader, like the Ortegos with Richard Ortega, and with Luis Soliano in his band, and the Army Band, the Music and Drama Company band, and Teramasa Hino, the Asian All Stars band leader from Japan. I have not had any other band leaders. So yeah, and so I guess I was and still am that in that aspect of me, that I'm good at leading musicians, either in a small band situation or in a big band or even in an orchestra.
The reason why I'm asking all these questions, whether or not you think you're prodigious, gifted.
Okay, gifted, I think I am.
Okay.
So and that I consider it kind of a God-given gift, yes. And I think that I was gifted with the ability to learn to play the piano well. But a prodigy is quite different, and usually prodigies, they fade out by the time in the late teens. Most of them fade out.
Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the sad things about 90% of so-called prodigies is they fade out and disappear.
Okay.
And so another reason why I don't think I'm a prodigy is because I didn't fade out. I continued. I was able to get a career in my mid-teens. Go to the army, be in the music and drama company band, and moonlighting at night during that period. Coming out and straight away getting a job with the Ortegos. And then actually when I was 17 years old, EMI Records with Reggie Verghese and music director, the late Martin Pereira, appointed me the EMI session pianist.
Okay.
So I was, from that point, 1977, for the next 15 years, I played on more than 300 pop albums, which is actually quite considerable when you think about. I have 50 jazz records. I released my 50th jazz album last year, or early this year, and I've played on 300 pop albums.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know where else to go with this now. Well, jazz, specifically jazz. You're well known for jazz. What sparked your passion for jazz?
Well, like I said, my father played jazz guitar,
Yeah.
and Hawaiian music as well, and he had a lot of jazz records at home, with Oscar Peterson and Joe Pass, the guitar player, and Stan Getz, and so jazz music was something I started listening to when I was like, as soon as I knew what was going on, I was listening to jazz music at home. And I loved it. And at the age of 14, it's very interesting because I was listening to a Quincy Jones record featuring a harmonica solo by Toots Tillemans, one of the greatest jazz harmonica players ever, playing a song by Ray Brown called Brown Ballad. And I was standing there in my living room, and I started to have tears come down my eyes. I was crying, and my mother asked me, "Why are you standing in the middle of your living room crying?" I said, "Mom, I've never heard anything more beautiful than this."
Wow.
And that was kind of a turning point. Then when I was in secondary 2, I remember, 14 years old, I was already in secondary 2. I met a gentleman by the name of Hilarion Goh, who was 1 year older than I am, and he was moonlighting, playing in Chinese nightclubs, playing keyboards. And he was earning like $1,500 a month back in 1975.
That's good money.
So I said, "Oh, that means I can make money from this. I can make a living from this." And he inspired me to look at it as a career. But that moment, listening to that Quincy Jones record with Toots Tillemans, who I ended up playing with on stage at concerts, in 2003 for the first time, and again a few times after that. That was a turning point that made me want to be a musician and a jazz musician.
What is the influence on you by this lovely gentleman, Luis Soliano?
So Luis, I of course, very interesting. When I was about 1967, 68, when he returned from the UK, I watched a RTS radio
television Singapore
before SBC.
Before
right?
we go on, can you please? Great, thank you very much. There he is.
Yeah.
Luis Soliano.
Yeah, so at 19, back in the 60s, and 67, so I watched TV and I saw this great drummer playing like, so many drums that he had, crap load of drums and all the cymbals. And I said, wow, someone from Asia can sound like this, you know what I mean? And so Luis then awakened in me a belief that I could one day be like him, but on the piano, and we've been friends ever since I started playing in Club 392. I used to go and watch him and jam with him, and then in 1981 I actually joined his band for a couple of years, playing at the Hilton. And so we've had a wonderful, long musical relationship and great friendship. And I produced his 80th birthday concert a couple of years ago. He appears on my concerts quite often. We meet, we try and meet for meals at least once every 6 weeks or something like that. So we're friends first and foremost, and he's definitely one of my greatest mentors.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
I know Luis as well.
Yeah.
And especially during the time when he was playing at the Ritz-Carlton for a couple of months. Actually.
Yeah.
Quite a long contract.
Yeah.
And I actually jammed with him as a customer.
Yeah.
So, in the hotel, So I went up, sang with him. Yeah. But man, I've said this before, I think to Jimmy Lee, Can the guy scat, man? Wow, he's a scat man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just cannot wrap it around my head.
Yeah.
Because my brain gets tangled already just thinking about how to scat. But he can go on forever.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, and playing the drums.
Yes. Yes.
Remarkable, really. Just that nice. As I said in that episode, I'm just saddened that he can't remember me. He cannot remember me. I called him up. He couldn't remember me.
I see.
Well, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, he's of age now.
Yeah.
Acceptable. Yeah. The title, King of Swing, Jeremy.
Yeah, so that's something the Japanese press first coined when I played in the 90s in Japan.
Uh-huh.
And it was nice that they said that. And then later on, the Malaysian press caught hold of it, and then the Thai press got hold of it, and then only the Singapore press started to refer to me as Singapore's King of Swing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a moniker that was given to me first by the Japanese press.
But the Japanese press, not ST.
No.
Yeah,
how
do you feel about that today? You're still known as the King of Swing, right?
It's a nice moniker. I mean, something, the good thing is I didn't give it to myself. But now that of course, when you're given that kind of a so-called title, you use it in your marketing, right?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah. So, but I don't say, hi, I'm Jeremy Monteiro, the King of Swing, and let other people say it.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But it feels good, doesn't it? I mean, just to be called the King of Swing.
Yeah.
I've always known you as that. The moniker really stuck with you.
Yeah,
for like forever.
Yeah. And that was only done in the 90s, actually. So I'm grateful that it stuck.
I've always known, because the first time I saw you was in the 90s.
Right.
The first time I saw you play.
Right.
It was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, that's the guy they call the King of Swing.
Yeah.
But more than that, you also wrote One People, One Nation, One Singapore.
Otherwise known as One Pimple, One Lotion, One Single Pore. So I was involved as a music director. Well, I'll let you recover while I have some water here.
I tell you, I never heard that before. This is the first time, man.
Yeah, so I actually did. I actually was a music director for the first 3 national songs, which is Stand Up Singapore, We Are Singapore, Call Me Singapore. I worked with Hugh Harrison, the composer,
right,
and the arranger and music director. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's try and write a song together and put it through." Mm-hmm. And it went all the way up to then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, who shot back, "Are you sure that we are one people? Are you sure that we are one nation?" So then it came all the way back to us through the various channels, and we said, yes, it's an aspiration.
He actually asked that.
Yeah. So I said it's an aspiration. We may not be 100% there yet, but it's an aspiration.
You know what? I'd be sweating buckets, man, just to get LKY coming back to you with that kind of question. I'll be sweating. You've met him. I'm pretty.
No, I've performed for him 2 or 3 times, but I never had a chance to meet him. I was even invited to his 80th birthday concert. We sat in the table way back at the Shangri-La Ballroom, but didn't have a chance to speak to him directly. Mm-hmm. With former Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, I've had many encounters with him. And I just was saying today to a friend, people only know his political persona, but I've had a chance to meet him on a personal level. He's a very nice man. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, but then they started to forget that these were the 4 national songs. They never actually went to formally gazette it. So now it's lumped together with the so-called National Day songs.
Right.
I always feel we should have this national songs, and then induct special songs that can become national songs, like "Home" by Dick Lee should be a national song.
It's not, you mean?
Because there's no such thing now.
Yeah,
it's all National Day songs.
National Day songs.
Yeah. So then I feel that if we do this, then we are like the US, where you have your main national anthem, and then your sub anthems like "America the Beautiful."
Yeah.
So I think I have had conversations with some of the leadership on this, but hopefully one day they will do this, because then people will aspire to write National Day songs, and then hopefully they will sort of be inducted into a level of song, sub anthem level with with like the original four
Yeah,
nationalizers.
but Jeremy, I would have thought that would be a logical passage,
Yeah.
isn't it, for any nation?
Yeah.
That if I'm actually I'm a little gobsmacked, to be honest, because we have all these songs that I remember from school days, man. I stand up for Singapore, count on me, Singapore, and then all the songs you've mentioned. And I would have thought that it would be a natural thing, a logical, move to just call them national songs. As a matter of fact, I think the language that most people speak, in coffee shops and all that, is that, hey, that's a national song. Hey, this is a national song.
Yeah.
We don't even call it an NDP song.
Yeah.
So I'm quite surprised that there really isn't categorically
Yeah.
they're national songs.
Well, I guess it's for the most part now it's regarded as a little bit semantic, but I think in the end of the day, I think we should articulate, because as we grow older as a nation, it's important to have these sub anthems supporting the main anthem and so on and so forth that builds our national identity.
Right.
Well, hopefully one day. I mean, I've spoken to some people about it, but end of the day, I think they have bigger fish to fry at the present moment.
Oh, by the way, this is a pre-recording, people. It's going to be GE period soon at this moment. At this moment, yeah. Yeah, and speaking about, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, I've only had the opportunity to, I'm not going to say pleasure, I'll tell you why. The opportunity to perform for him once. And Bonnie and Wendy and a few others were there with us. We were not hired. I was invited actually to perform, MC and perform for Parliament's private party.
I see.
In the old Parliament House.
Yeah.
And Mr. Lee was front and center, front table, right? And I'm right there, I'm like 3 meters or 4 meters away from him. And he's right smack right in front of me because the mic's center stage. So I said I'm going to sing a Chinese song.
Oh.
And he said, and really, because the instructions passed down to us, to the band and me, don't play too loud.
Yeah.
Don't sing too loud. He doesn't like loud noises. I said, okay, we really got to keep it at a level. How are we going to do that? Yeah. It's a lot of control, So I said, okay, I'm going to sing a Chinese song. And you could hear him within earshot. Everyone in the room could hear it, frankly. And I heard it right in my face. The moment I said, I'm going to sing a Chinese song, he says, Mr. Lee said, it'll be interesting to hear this Eurasian boy sing a Chinese song. I tell you, at the moment I wanted to mic drop and walk. So no choice. Now the show goes on. I sang, right? Yeah. At the end of the song, he said, not bad. Not bad. I tell you, Jeremy, I swear. I was like, shitting bricks, man.
Not bad is a compliment.
I really would like to sing that way, though, but I would never forget that night for as long as I live. Bonnie and I have got fond memories of that evening, and he was on the show, that.
Yes.
So, your career having spanned decades, and along the way, did you actually, I'm sure you did, stupid question, but I'm going to ask, actually expand your academically on music? Do you go on to take further studies on music or anything like that?
So that's a very interesting question. I had this long running successful career. Then I got this professorial appointment, and I still only had my O levels. I was the first O level person to be given a visiting professor appointment in Singapore, who didn't have a degree. Right? So then I thought, you know what? I better go and get some kind of piece of paper that says that I know what they are saying I know. So I took a fellowship diploma from the London College of Music, which is the highest diploma that they issue. 2 years after I got my professorial appointment. So I did that. And then last year, even before I turned 64, I was 63, I took a postgraduate diploma in film scoring and orchestration from the Film Scoring Academy of Europe. And that was very, very intense because from not studying for 40 years, suddenly,
Right.
to go back to school, so to work, so to speak. And I almost gave up actually. I after the first month and a half, I said, "Oh, this is too difficult." And I told my son, "I think I'm going to drop out." He goes, "Wasn't it you who told me never to give up?" So I cannot back my own.
Solo back whatever you told him.
So I just clenched my fist and went through it, and I was so happy I did, because in August I went to conduct the 17-piece string orchestra in Budapest. I mean in Sofia in Bulgaria. And then more recently in November, my final project with a full symphony orchestra, which played my piece. And I conducted them for a couple of the takes, and all of a sudden, I actually won an award in 1991 for Best Music Score at the International Radio Festival of New York. And then I dropped writing for large ensemble to concentrate on being a jazz pianist. So I left it for all these years, 3.5 decades, right? And then 10 years ago, I started getting involved with large ensemble, again, playing with Resound Collective, Orchestra for Music Makers. I also worked with Singapore Symphony Orchestra and Singapore Chinese Orchestra. So I was already 10 years ago. I started getting involved again with large ensemble,
Right.
Particularly in the symphonic jazz genre, which is bringing together orchestral music with jazz, and so now I'm fully back in that I can actually write. I don't have to write every song of my concert, but I can actually write a full score of a full orchestra, and so I'm so gratified that I went back to school, and thinking seriously about doing the master's program in about a year and a half.
Wow.
If I can find a way to get away for a while.
So when you write for an ensemble, it's for every section, right?
Yes.
Different scores for different sections.
Yeah,
right?
so different parts for
Different parts, yes.
So, depending on how big the orchestra is.
Oh,
but,
gosh.
So it's first violin, second violins, violas, cellos, double basses, French horns, trumpets, trombones, woodwinds. And woodwinds alone, there's clarinets and there's flutes and there's oboes.
Percussions?
And you write for percussion, you write for harp. It's
Oh, goodness, man, just the thought of it.
So that's what I've regained those skills, which is quite. I'm so glad that I did, and I'm so enamored by it. So, and as a result of learning those skills, I went back to writing big band charts as well, because I hadn't written big band for 20 years. So I just wrote my first big band chart for a concert about a month ago. It took me a bit longer than other people, maybe take a week. I took 3 weeks to write it, but because it takes a while to get the speed up again.
Right.
And so it was very, very, very gratifying, like I said, to do this again. And it's now going to be a big part of my life, besides playing. Maybe it's my retirement plan, as I move into my 70s, I'll be writing orchestral parts for singers who want to sing with orchestra.
Wow.
So, and I've just been commissioned to write a piece for the Singapore Armed Forces Band, 90-piece wind orchestra. So all very, very exciting things.
I just think about it, going, getting a migraine, man. Yeah. It's a lot of taugis.
Yeah, certainly is.
Let me bring you back a couple of years. I saw, because I had to go online. I need to find out a lot more about Jeremy Monteiro. I saw pics of you with George Benson, with Matt Monroe, with James Brown, with, oh my goodness, Quincy Jones.
Yes.
How were these guys, man?
So I know, the thing about it, when I met James Brown, it was in Finland, because I had done my shows and he had done his show, and I went to watch his concert, and we met at Helsinki airport, right? I went up to him and said, of course I was very respectful. I called him Mr. Brown, pleasure to meet you, and from Singapore. And at that point he had already been arrested, but not yet, for pulling a gun on a cop in the States, And so I was a bit nervous that this guy is going to, slap me or something. But he was so gracious. He was so kind to me.
He didn't go, hey!
Hey, yeah. And very, very gentle conversation. And he asked about Singapore food, and so on and so forth. And I told him the kind of food that we had over in Singapore, and very nice. And everyone I've met, a lot of these great musicians, they're actually very nice people.
Were there any anecdotes that you gained from these guys, maybe meeting these guys?
Well, not because the conversations were relatively short. I mean,
Right.
Josh Benson was interesting because, he had at that time he has bodyguards around him, and I actually went up to him and I said, Butch says hello. Butch is O'Donnell Levy, who lived here and played at a saxophone bar for the longest time, the Black American
Right.
guitarist.
Okay.
And his nickname in the States was Butch. No one called him Butch here, but in the States, I knew that his nick. So Butch says hello. I say, oh yeah. Then he comes and he gives me a big hug. So of course, then his security know I'm cool. He knows I'm cool. And then we had a nice conversation. He told me to send his love to O'Donnell. And so that was also a brief encounter. Quincy Jones, different. I had a nice long 2-hour dinner.
Oh, wow.
With some really big money people from the music industry in Korea. The K-pop gang was there. But the moment I talked to Quincy and I started mentioning James Moody, that's it. He didn't care about the business talk already. He just wanted to talk music with me, and we talked music for 2 hours. It was just amazing. And then the rest of the businessmen talk about business on their own. And he was really nice, and he said, "Hey, listen, I want to take a picture with you. Can you make a really good gangster face?" So I said, "Okay." So I make this very gangster face, and he does as well. And we take this picture, which I posted on Facebook.
Yeah. Which we also just put up.
Yeah. This is a one of we are smiling, but we also have another one with two guys making a gangster face, scary gangster faces. Gangster as in GANGSTA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was really nice. Meeting many people, George Burns, the comedian.
Yeah, George Burns, yeah.
Yeah, I had
chomping on a cigar.
Yeah, and I met him in 1985, and many other great artists and actors and performers that I've had the chance to some of them were brief conversations, some of them I had long conversations. Like George Burns, I had him to myself for an hour. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a composer, what inspires your music?
So for me, I kind of subscribe to the same theory that George Whittaker had, which basically, he basically said that composers are like antennas, because he believes the music is flying around in the ether in the sky, and that what composers have the ability to do is that we're able to capture it with our antennas, and then process it in our minds.
Wow.
To then, and I feel it's like that. Very often, I hear it in my head before anything. I very seldom do I purposefully go down and sit down and tell myself I'm going to write a song. I will just be quiet. The main thing is to develop this ability to be still and to be quiet. And if the quieter you're able to be, then you start to hear your thoughts. I always say that silence is the voice of inspiration. Silence is the voice of God, so to speak. And actually, and if you're able to be quiet enough, you will start to hear these melodies bubble up, and then you quickly note them down or record it in your recorder. So that's basically how I write. I hear it in my head first, and then it comes out on either music paper or.
There's something I've always tried to understand.
Yeah.
How do composers come up with melody? Where did all that come from? Right? I hear from so many musos, all my friends, very experienced guys who tell me, Chris, sometimes the magic's in the simple stuff.
Yeah.
The 4 or 5 chord songs that make it,
Yeah.
I've always believed in that, to be honest, because I see so much proof of it everywhere. And then so when I say, I want to write a song, whimsical, in a whimsical way, I want to write a song. What do you have in mind?
Yeah.
They ask me, what do you have in mind? Shucks, I got no tune in my head. You get a tune, and let us know. And I always wondered about, how do you get that in your head, man? So that's a good point you just made. Thanks. It's a very layperson's understanding of things. I think, just stay silent and see what happens.
Yeah,
you're Jeremy Monteiro. You see, that's different. You can be silent and there's still music ringing around in your head. People like me could be blank.
But I think sometimes it's the ability to really be very quiet. I mean, I do have a bit of a meditation practice, not as much as I used to have, and just to sit quietly, and just allow these ideas to bubble up. It's something that. I mean, very often when I'm asked to write something, I have to find this time. I always say you got to sit down. For me, I sit down at the piano, and inspiration might not walk in the door that first time.
Right.
The second time I do it, or the third time I do it, and one day when inspiration realizes I'm serious, wanting to listen to him or her, inspiration walks through the door and the tune comes out.
So it's very akin to writers even.
Yes.
You know, when sometimes they get writer's block, sometimes they have an epiphany and they got an aha moment.
Yes.
And they start getting behind the computers and start writing.
Yeah.
So it's composers, musicians, writers.
All
It's the
similar.
same kind of similar
I
inspiration.
think the same process. Yes.
Yeah, same process. In 2002, you were awarded the Cultural Medallion. It's the highest award in Singapore for the arts. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was very honored because I think I was either the youngest or the second youngest person to receive the Cultural Medallion. And I actually was the first pianist to receive it, which is I felt shy about that part of it because there's all these great pianists that came before me, Xiao Yitkin and all these people that made it as concert pianists around the world. So I was surprised that there were no pianists that received the Cultural Medallion before I did. And since then, there's only been one other, Margaret Langton, who's an avant-garde pianist, who lives in New York. Singaporean.
Sorry, what's an avant-garde pianist?
Avant-garde, just kind of like dissonant and
Okay.
that kind of thing. And so yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that more pianists haven't gotten the Cultural Medallion. Many of them are very deserving, in my opinion. So it was very, very special to receive it and to go to the Istana with my family. My mom was still alive at the time, and then to receive the Cultural Medallion. So yeah, it was a very special moment in my life. I know that the Cultural Medallion is similar in stature to like in France where they have the Knighthood of Arts and Letters. So I don't take it for granted. I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, because I received it in mid-career. Most people receive it later in the late part of their career.
Yeah.
But I guess I'd done so much already at that time. I already have been doing the music thing for 25 years. I had enough of a body of work that the Arts Council felt that I deserved it. But for me, it was an encouragement award to keep going. Some people say, "Oh, you got it already. You don't have to," But I still have to cari makan, right? So I just continue to work,
And speaking about keep going, you really kept going because there's another special moment that just happened not long ago, as you mentioned also earlier, your 65th birthday gig, man. Now, before we talk about that, this one was at the Esplanade, and you had a big band on stage. Let's play that vid. Because you know something, I'm very impressed with the young lady. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Our love is here to stay. Wait a minute, that's Louis Soliano.
Right, yeah.
The guy with the cap, people. That is a great Louis Soliano. Playing percussions. Okay. Thanks very much, Kai. Who's that girl? She is amazing.
So yeah, she auditioned to sing for the Lion City Youth Jazz Festival, Lion City Jazz Festival that the Jazz Association Singapore organizes. And we auditioned her. She came and she sounded great, and ended up having her sing with the Dizzy Gillespie band members with the Jazz Association Singapore Youth Orchestra.
Okay.
So of course Dizzy is gone, but his band still lives. Like any of these bands, like Count Basie and all the bands still very active.
Yeah.
So that's when we first, and then she sings on some of my gigs quite often actually, and then I had her come and sing.
So pleasant and so mature.
Yeah, very mature.
The way she sings is so mature. It's like she's been doing this like forever.
Yeah.
I mean, mean, it's amazing.
Some of the young people, they basically give you evidence there must be such a thing as reincarnation because of the maturity they have at a very young age.
Yeah, I when I was I had to watch all the videos and say, okay, which one do I put on the show? And when I heard her sing, I'm like, who the hell is this girl? Because I would have half expected someone older, but no, she was holding it so well.
Yes,
I was really I was blown away.
Yeah.
No, that she's really, I mean, if you see her again, please tell her.
I will. Her name is Sneha Menon.
Okay.
And so she's
Sneha
quite
Menon.
Sneha. Some people, some musicians actually say she sounds like a young Billie Holiday. And
Yeah. Precisely.
Yeah.
But really fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Blown away. And that was your birthday gig. And what was the vision behind that?
So basically, we had two halves. The first half was with my small band, the trios, and the quintet, which I've been listening to some of the recordings that we both recorded, and that's an album right there. We can actually release that as an album. And then the second half, the Jazz Association Singapore Orchestra, or Jazzo came on with our special guest artists from around the world. And then we performed, played mostly original music on the shows. This was one of the encore tunes.
This is original.
No, this is not original. This is one of the non-originals. Maybe there are two non-originals, the whole second half. The rest are all original tunes of mine. And so, it was, the audience was very beautiful and really very, it almost felt like I had a bunch of people in my living room and having just a very intimate get-together, but actually it's inside the Esplanade Concert Hall.
Yeah, I mean, living room, talk about living room, and it is the Esplanade. Let's take a look at the rollout, Kai. Esplanade was your living room, Jeremy.
That's my son wheeling together with some of my great supporters and Esplanade CEO as well.
Wow.
Doesn't the band sound great? I mean, Singapore should be proud we have a Jazzo.
That's the thing, you see? That's why I have this tribute show. Okay, thanks, Kai. That's why I have this tribute show, and that's why I'm paying tribute to you. Because to me, music is not so vaunted here in Singapore, in my opinion. I want to show musicians and entertainers and people who support the night scene, the music scene in Singapore. I want to pay tribute to them. I want people to know. Right. And that we should bring these things back home. We should. I am very saddened. And you hear me talk about this all the time, and I read your letter, man. I read the one that went viral. The day you posted it, I read it. I said, oh, this is so good because Jeremy's coming on. So I have to talk to him about this. And the realities, you reflected in the realities faced by musos in Singapore. And the stagnation of live gig fees since the 70s. Can you elaborate on how this has impacted the livelihoods of musicians in today's context?
Well, the thing is about it is that, a musician and any kind of artist, you got to continue making your art. Musicians have to play, composers have to compose, writers have to write. And whether we earn money from it or not, we're going to do it because this is our passion and our love, right? So the gig fees have stayed more or less stagnant. Of course, not everyone gets 150. Some people get 200, 250, 300. But you think about all the other professions and how much more
progression there is,
But musicians have survived all this time. They find some way to make music money on the side, whether it's teaching or even doing some day jobs. And I think there's nothing wrong with having day jobs. At the end of the day, to support your art, because to me, I have a literary book called Late Night Thoughts of a Jazz Musician. It was my first literary book. My first book was a music book. My second book was a literary book. And to my total surprise, it won 2 literary awards. And one of the chapters, the title is, "You do not have to be a professional musician to attain a professional level of musicianship." So if you can make money from it, great. If not, if you love it, just do it. Don't say I don't want to do it because I can't earn money Find some other way to feed. And I always say there's two things, your job and your work. They're very separate. Your job is the thing you do to make money, and your work is your life's mission. So it could be someone could be driving taxi from Monday to Friday. That's his job. And then on Saturday, Sunday, his work is to volunteer for free at the Salvation Army. So the same thing for us musicians. It could be someone's working a day job, or like for me, my job is playing for corporate functions where no one listens to me, and my work is playing concerts like at the Esplanade or playing in a jazz club where people are giving me pin drop silence attention, right?
Yeah.
So to balance your pocketbook and your soul like that. Just keep going, keep doing it. Don't give up just because you can't make a living from it, so to speak.
Job and work, Mr. X, when he was on this show, Mr. X said exactly the same thing. It's either I got a job or I go to work, right? I'd rather go to work because a job's a job.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, wow. This, again, something about you guys from that generation, you say the same things, do the same things.
Yeah, either it's great minds think alike or fools seldom differ. You take your pick.
No, I don't mean to any disrespect at all. As a matter of fact, I'm just basically,
I know.
I'm basically sounding off an observation. Yeah, it's really interesting. You also touched on the decline of full-time residency gigs. How has this shift changed the landscape for professional musicians?
So yes, one of the things I've been talking to various government departments about is to try to create more places where musicians can perform, and it doesn't have to always be in Orchard Road.
Right.
It can be in Pasir Panjang, it can be in Seletar Hills, it can be all over the place. The difficulty is, of course, the fact that you need a public entertainment license in these places. It's easy to get those one-night public entertainment licenses, but hard to get the long-term ones.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spell it because I think the authorities are really thinking about everything that I'm discussing with them, and hopefully there will be one day a landscape where musicians can work all over the island. And of course, what happens is that maybe the newer musicians or musicians who are not that accomplished yet, maybe the ones who earn $100, $150. But as a result of many of these gigs appearing, then the Orchard Road musicians will stop earning 150, will start earning 200, 300, 400, whatever. And I really believe that this is the way we tackle this problem. And I'm in constant conversation with people within these government departments, and they're very nice, and I think they kind of understand where I'm coming from. Now, just looking at the practical aspects of it, do we have someone else administer public entertainment licenses? Do we offer exemptions on occasion when if it's a good place and a safe place and the music's not too loud or whatever it is, So we have to, because the problem is that we've had situations where you have a bar next to someone's house. Of course, at 10 o'clock, the kid needs to study, right? So then you need to make sure that if you do have a bar that's 100 meters from someone's house, you have to make sure the bar soundproofs enough such that the music can stay within the establishment.
You said a few things I would like to also speak my mind about. Mm-hmm. First of all, Orchard Road. What musicians in Orchard Road? There's hardly any now. This all happened post-pandemic. Mm-hmm. Pre-pandemic wasn't so bad. Along Orchard Road is a hive of activity. You got stuff happening at the Neon City Civic Center. You have stuff happening across the road from there in front of the Paragon. You got all kinds of things going on. Mm-hmm. Today is dead. It's been dead for a long time. Then there's this moniker, I'm calling it a moniker, that's been given to musicians and entertainers per se, and that's called you're non-essential. And that term, it seemed to be a very hastily drummed up description or adjective, for occupations that is not essential. Mm-hmm. Non-essential occupations, and you know how badly musicians and bars even suffered during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying right or wrong, but I'm saying that now it's done, it's over. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't seem to be recovering. Hotels have, I think, a lot of pianos are floating in the ocean right now because most of the hotels threw away the pianos.
Yes, that's right.
It's ridiculous. I've said it before. I've told Stephen Francis and Rob Collins on this show this season that honestly, I don't think hotels have any excuse at all, to not bring back musicians to play.
Right.
And then when for bars and clubs that do, it's always the acoustic sets, the 2 pieces. At the most, if you have a 3-piece, you got to haggle with these guys.
Yeah.
You got to haggle for a 3-piece?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Now, on the part, this is a sore point to me. On the point about noise, okay, the decibels. If a bar or is located next to a home or next to homes, honestly, I always feel that the complaints come because people are just too damn smug and too damn entitled. They will use the excuse of my son has to study, this, that, I work night shift, I come back, I have to work early in the morning, then there's so much noise. To me, it's very simple. If you buy a house next to a bar that's been there before you bought the house, especially, you don't like it, don't buy the house. It doesn't mean that, but I want to buy the house, I like the house, I don't care about the bar. Then you go and tell the bar offer. It's people's livelihood and business.
Yeah.
So there's another side of the coin to look at. Besides all these usual entitled excuses that I think the authorities shouldn't pander so easily to. Because I have seen people in neighborhoods come to a bar where people are having a great time and literally show the owner of the bar decibel meter. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so see, for me, maybe I'm not as militant as you are about this.
I'm
And
not being militant. You are not a
No.
zealot.
No, because the thing about it is look, when you go and visit a house to buy, very often it's in the daytime, and at night the bar next door is all shuttered up. You don't even know there's a bar next door.
Caveat emptor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, buyer beware. It's buyer beware. If you're silly enough to not check even at night, come see the place at night rather than the day. Because to me, I do. If I'm in going to hunt for a house, I will come and see the house in the day and at night.
But there's enough places around Singapore that are at least 100 meters from a potential bar. And we're talking about, okay, I think these are far and few between, because there are many places that are out in the neighborhoods. For example, in Seletar Hills, Jalan, Selassie or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you have a bar there. You just have to soundproof it so that upstairs, because don't forget, the whole row of upstairs will hear you if you don't soundproof. So then just mitigate your noise issues by putting enough sound insulation in the place. Across the basketball court, the house, you won't hear a peep.
Okay, granted. I'm not being militant. I've got to say this very clearly. I get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, but I would just tell you, Jeremy, that I tell you, I can put a wager down with you, man. If I pick a bar, and which I will on Friday, I will talk to the owner, who's having these problems, and I will tell the owner, listen. Try to just soundproof and insulate, your whole place. Okay? Just spend the money, just do it. And on the hypothesis that the person does it, I guarantee you, there will still be complaints.
I mean, at that point, we got to,
what do we do then? What does a bar owner do then?
So no, I think so there's so many locations around Singapore, even in the HDB estates, that there could be suitable locations for you to put an establishment that has live music. So I believe that we shouldn't fight this, because I'm already fighting this fight now.
I'm not trying to make it hard.
No, because I believe that because they will try. I think eventually we'll get to a pilot program with 10 places, new places that can open across the island. And it doesn't have to be, some place can be jazz, some can be acoustic pop, some can be can be folk music, a guy singing James Taylor songs. Another place could be a classical string quartet, all kinds of music. All kinds of music, right?
Okay.
I think music is music. For me, I'm a classically trained pianist, even though I'm known as a jazz musician. So I love all kinds of music. I believe there's only 2 kinds of music: good music and bad music. The genre doesn't matter to me. So let's hope that in the coming years we'll start to see more places proliferation of new places opening up with music, and find a way to live and let live in the neighborhoods and so on and so forth.
Yes, that's it.
No,
Live
but
and let live.
I'm sorry, but I actually sympathize with that guy whose house is right next door to a bar, because he may not have signed up for that. He may not have. Honestly speaking, when you buy a house, did you come in the night? You didn't come in the night. You came and saw in the day.
I'll be fair to you. The reason why I said all this is because I've encountered different things, not just bars. Across the Marine Parade on the ECP, on the beach, I'm almost to the beach, like on East Coast Parkway, there used to be a bar with bands playing. It's far away. I mean, the next home you see is like across
the highway,
and the flats, right?
Yeah.
Complaints. It's a bit local, right?
But technology would have fixed it. There's now the Japanese technology where you put if they put a sound divider there, this would have completely quietened the place down.
But nobody would do that because you wouldn't have expected complaints coming from flats that are just way across the expressway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then another one, school, huh?
Yeah.
Bell rings. The bell rings. School bell rings. Now that's why you hardly find school bells. Mm-hmm. Now you hear dun, 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 the Big Ben tune, right? But when kids are having football or whatever, the residents next door to the school can call and complain.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's just bad behavior.
Exactly what I mean. You see, I'm saying that we have two. It may not just be about or legitimate reasons, but there's a lot of other things that people use as legitimate reasons, which is just insensible and just very thoughtless, lah.
Yeah.
And the school thing that happened, right? It was on Harmony Day.
Yeah.
And it's like, we celebrate multiculturalism, multiracialism, Harmony Day. And so there's music playing on the school field. 100 calls came in, I'm not kidding, complaining.
Yeah.
Of complaints, that doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe this is a societal issue. It's endemic in society rather than about his music is loud, then I need to study it. I think it's more than that.
But it happens all over the world. I mean, it's not unique to Singapore. A lot of things that we think are unique to Singapore, and someone has traveled all over the world, I can tell you, people are people. Everywhere in the world, we have the same issues.
Yeah, but we have to address those issues, right? Rather than keep quiet about it and just be resigned to that. That's not me, lah. Yeah. I will just say my piece. I will call a spade, lah.
Yeah. But a lot of these complaints, to be fair, if you do it in the daytime, and the people call, and if there's 100 complaints, no one's going to do anything.
Daytime, yeah.
No one's going to do anything because the police also won't do anything because you're allowed to have such activities until 10:30 at night.
Just that the poor admin sitting at a desk getting calls after call after call after call and being shouted at and screamed at and cussed at. It's not funny, lah.
Yeah.
Fair
enough.
Let's wrap this up a little bit, okay? Yeah. The lack of employee benefits for many freelance musos, is it a significant concern?
Well, freelancers in general, whether music or non-music, we don't really have an employer-employee relationship. Very often, the contracts will also say this contract does not signify a employer-employee relationship.
Right.
So I guess the musician has got to make sure that he pays into his medical for his CPF. So that he gets MediSave, and the other thing is to just cover themselves with, when they're young especially, to buy insurance policies. Whether it's a health insurance policy or a lifetime or an endowment policy. No, I'm not, don't worry, I'm not
yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, but so I think they can protect themselves that way.
Yeah.
So that when they reach their old age, there will be this support system that they've worked into and paid into. Everyone pays into such a situation for their old age. So I think that's I was very lucky. Mr. Isaac actually paid me CPF. And because of him and being in the music and drama company at the age of 21, I could buy my first HDB flat. I had enough money for the down payment. And but not many music employers, club employers who would have.
Would do that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Harry's was the other one. For 15 years, the owner of Harry's, they actually paid all their musicians CPF, which is
Well, that's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. I like people like that.
Yeah.
Is it true that the public perception of musicians' earnings is that they earn a lot? Is that true?
Yeah, people always think, because musicians always carry themselves very well. We dress well. We are usually well spoken because most of us are actually educated enough. And some friends of mine have got law degrees and they are musicians. And would rather be playing jazz piano than practicing law. More power to them.
Wow.
So and I have many of these people who have got such degrees in economics and law.
But they'd rather just be musicians.
There's a very bad joke. How do you become a millionaire as a jazz musician? You start off as a billionaire. So, but we chose this for ourselves, right? So I mean, if we did, then sometimes we just have to roll with the punches because we chose this life.
Yeah, and young musicians, you also mentioned young musicians. You talked about financial prudence earlier, but you also mentioned about self-promotion. So would you like to expound a little bit on that for the young musos that's watching or listening to this show?
Yeah, some of them are very savvy about it, and I think it's good that they are. But some of them they look at self-promotion as something obscene. One day, one young jazz musician told me, "Oh, I never had to, what do you call this? Wes Montgomery, the great guitar player, never had to do any self-promotion." I say, yeah, but he had 6 publicists, 3 from the record company and 3 he hired himself. Are you going to hire anyone like that for yourself? And if you're not, then you just have to do your own self-promotion. It's just part of life,
Yeah. Okay. Your role as chairman of Compass and formerly, right, with the Jazz Association?
No, I'm still executive director. I'm co-founder and executive director.
Apologies.
Yeah.
What are some of the key changes or support systems you believe are needed to better sustain musicians here in Singapore?
Well, as far as Compass is concerned, which I co-founded back in 1988 together with the 4 other friends, I sat in the chair from 91 to 93 and then recently went back to the chair about 2.5, 3 years ago. Its main purpose is to make sure that the musicians are paid royalties for the compositions that are played either live or on air or whatever, or on aeroplanes and so on and so forth. And so it exists for that reason. However, there's a lot of support for musicians who want to record an album or want to do a tour. They can go and approach Compass for some financial support. The Jazz Association, we started 9 years. We'll be 9 years old this year. We have given out 10 scholarships for people to study for degrees, either bachelor's or master's degree in jazz studies, whether here or in the US. And we hire jazz musicians on a regular basis to play in our big bands, both the main big band, Jazzo, and the youth band, Jazzio.
Right.
And so that we give them employment throughout the year on a regular basis, not full-time employment, but regular freelance employment. We pay very well. Recently, I found out that so very often, big bands, they go and play, they don't get a single cent, they just do it because they love it. But when we hire the musicians, we actually pay them for rehearsals, we pay them for the show. And I've come to find out that actually we pay similar to some of the top big bands in the world for the freelance work, that makes me very proud that we do that.
Wow.
So, that's my sphere, right? I got to think about where do I have influence? Where can I make a difference? Because very often, all those Facebook warriors talking about, you can't make a difference. I mean, you're just making noise only. But where I can actually make a difference, I think I have tried my best with my teams and my colleagues. But end of the day, I think the support systems, we chose a profession where we are our own support system. We got to create not only the way to earn income, do our own self-promotion, we have to do our own merchandising, we have to look after our families, maybe even if it means doing some kind of part-time job so we can pay for schooling for our kids. I mean, just the path we chose. Good, better, right, or good, good.
Better or worse, for better or worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. Good, bad, right or wrong.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, last question before I let you go. Your recent social media post on painting the town red. I actually enjoyed reading this one particularly. Let me just give a summation here. You encourage people in Singapore to be prudent but not prudes. Wow. Emphasizing the importance of spending on things like dining out and entertainment to support the economy. I actually like that, because not many people talk that way about going out and dine out and go out there and, for entertainment and leisure, even during tough times. As a musician who relies on live performances and people attending shows, what are your thoughts on the current economic climate in Singapore and how it directly impacts the livelihood of artists and the entertainment industry?
Well, I wrote that post before Donald Trump did the terrorist, right?
Yeah.
And decimated the whole world economy. I don't know whether that post would hold true or whether I will write it slightly different today.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that the only way the economy works is if we, when earning our money, spend money so that then this is a whole cyclical thing of the economy. We support the economy. All of us support the economy. So part of the economy is entertainment. Of course, luxuries now, people don't go out, go for so much nowadays because people start to actually think, why do I really need a Rolex watch, right? So that's important. The same could be said about, you should support the economy and buy the occasional expensive watch. But now you can't imagine giving that advice to anybody because it just, firstly, it's not necessary and it's showy and flashy, and people like to be a little less flashy nowadays. So, but as far as musicians and all are concerned, I think that you still should spend some of your money going out to dine out because, last year 3,000 restaurants closed down.
Yeah.
And maybe 2,000 more appeared this year so far, but you will notice they've all half in size because people don't like those large dining rooms anymore. And I think that's going to be the trend. People are going to go for smaller, intimate places.
Yeah.
And as far as music is concerned, I think to go out and have a drink and socialize with your friends or your loved one or loved ones, that you should really make an effort. And that was what that post is about. I guess it'll be sort of regulated a little bit more because now we're going to actually see our pocketbooks being hit very badly across the world.
Thanks to the Orange Idiot.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think that there was a really poor choice on the part of the American people to choose him and believe in his rhetoric. But at the end of the day, we have to do business with him and them. No choice, because he's going to be there. Maybe he'll have his wings clipped in the midterm elections, hopefully. But at the end of the day, the world has to deal. I mean, in Singapore, what are you going to do? You're just going to have to find a way. I was saying in another recent Facebook post, the rest of the world should get together and form a free trade zone. Just leave them out. And we'll still have to trade with them, but we should create our own world. Yeah. Because he's upended the entire world. Yeah.
There can be a world without America.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about that, but I certainly believe
without having to trade with them.
Yeah, we can trade. But then after a while, when they see that, hey, there's all this trade and cooperation and goodwill going around without them, I think at some point they will go, maybe. I think it's temporary because there's no way that America can stay like this.
Can survive that way.
Yeah.
Having lost, trillions in the first 24 hours.
Yeah.
But you raised this based on geopolitics and geoeconomics. But when it comes to locally, domestically here, and I've spoken about this to many musicians, and it is the cost to the consumer going to a place where there's music, there's a DJ in attendance, there's a band playing, no more cover charges these days, of course, but they go in and they don't go like before every night, after work, happy hour, happy hours and stuff, and they probably go out once a month.
Yeah.
So the culturally things seem to have changed post-pandemic.
Yes, you're right.
And poor musos, clubs and bar owners too, they no longer want to hire musicians or DJs even because why? This is the state of affairs. And it's a very sorry state.
It is.
Yeah. And paint the town red, man. That caught me when you put up that post, because when I saw it, I said, what, paint the town red? Nobody's fucking painting the town red anymore, man.
That's why I said they should do it.
It's an old adage now.
There
It's
you
an
go.
old adage. It's an old saying. And I think even the young ones will probably go, what does that mean? Painting the town red. Oh, gosh. It really hit me, that one. That really hit me. I say, no one does that anymore, Jeremy.
Yeah.
No one does that. But again, this is my tribute to you. Thank you for everything you've done for musicians, for music, and for Singapore's music.
Thank you very much, Chris.
On behalf of, I'm a nobody, I'm not like up there somewhere in leadership in this country, but on behalf of Singapore and Singaporeans, thank you so very much.
Thank you,
man.
thank
Really,
you so much.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And okay, everybody, I really had a music dignitary even in my studio today, and it's been a great conversation. Jeremy Monteiro, and I think 5 more, right, Kai? 5 more episodes to go before we call it a day. Right about 5, huh? Yeah. Or 4 more before we call it a season. Season 5 will be coming to an end shortly, but watch out for the next episode next week. And until then, next week, the next one, Kai, we've got Singapore's crooner coming on, and you got to really watch out for that one. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.